half the struggle of healing is unhooking from your thoughts. And when you have intrusive thoughts, the last thing you want to do is believe them.
Your dreams will always require your healing, and you need to know that in order to move forward. If you feel stuck in your creativity, your art, your business, or your life, then it's essential to understand that you are being asked to heal what's in the way of you creating what you dream about. This podcast is all about the relationship between your emotional health and your creativity. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. Hi guys. I had an episode come out last week and it was a part 1 about trauma obsession. Are we as a generation, as a culture, obsessed with trauma? And I've gotten a lot of really great feedback and I cannot wait to dive back into this topic next week with one of my best friends, Stephanie Bagato, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as an internal family systems certified therapist. However, due to some technical difficulties, we were not able to record part 2. So in the meantime, I wanted to talk about a topic that I've been discussing with a lot of my clients lately, and it's very simply and very complex, and a very complex topic, but it is all about your thoughts. That's what this podcast episode is going to be about today. We're going to talk about your thoughts. Like I said, as simple and as complex as that topic is. I wanted to just give you some basic language around it, some basic understanding of the function of your thoughts and how they work and everything that's going on with your thoughts. Hopefully to bring you some relief around possibly intrusive thoughts that you have and some understanding of how to actually use your relationship with your thoughts to bring healing to your nervous system and your heart and your brain and your body and your family and your world. So the first thing that I want to say about your thoughts is that they're actually inherently neutral. They're just your brain trying to make sense of what your body is experiencing in this world. Now, this is why those of us that have unresolved trauma, which lives in the body, tend to have more extreme thoughts or have more out of control thoughts or depressive thoughts because your body knows how to experience this world, or its context for understanding this world is based mostly on what happened to it thus far. So if, any of us had complex trauma growing up, acute trauma, disconnection, lack of attunement, neglect, abuse, or even big accidents or, issues in our family or any adverse childhood experiences, natural disasters, that will all leave an imprint on your nervous system. And few of us, especially, 20, 30, 40 years ago, which is around the age of most of you, actually had. Well, first of all, our parents didn't have access to the resources to help them understand what a child needs developmentally, emotionally, but also we didn't have the resources to help us understand how to help a child or a person process trauma really effectively and productively. That was all pretty new 20 years ago, 30, 40, especially. So few of us actually had this securely attached childhood with no acute trauma and feel deeply safe walking in the world. And our thoughts are pretty, mirroring that experience. Few people that I know have actually had that. And most of us have some level of unresolved trauma or disconnection or fear imprinted on our nervous system, which leads us to struggle in a lot of ways with our thoughts. That can really be where it feels like the suffering is coming from, is from our thoughts. But really, your thoughts are just trying to make sense of what's happening in your body. So you don't have control over your thoughts. You do have control over how to respond to them. So the other thing that I want to say about this is that your state creates your story. You've heard me say this probably at least a dozen times if you've been listening to this podcast. And what that means is that whatever state you're in, and remember, you can be in one of 3 states. If you look at the ladder, you can always email me and I will send you the ladder graphic that we made. It's the best ladder graphic that I've actually seen, but you can also Google it, autonomic ladder. We all have 3 states we can be in. At the top of the ladder, it is our ventral state. This is our state of safety, our state of connection, our state of inspiration, creativity, compassion, joy, courage. This is our true, authentic self. And when we're here, our thoughts are going to be just the right speed. They're not going to be racing, and they're not going to be slow and depressive. They're going to be inspired and curious and really fun to work with, because we're just going to see the possibility wherever we go. If we're in our sympathetic state or our fight or flight state, our thoughts are going to be racing really fast. And when we're here, this is when we are in incessant problem solving, which Cheryl Paul calls a game of whack-a-mole, because as soon as you solve one problem or you get bored of trying to solve one problem, another problem pops up. And we can go and loop around these over and over. And if you're here, I cannot overestimate how incredibly impossible it feels to stop this loop. It feels like these thoughts feel real. They're brilliant. They're actually the function of your thoughts when you're in a dysregulated state, like your fight or flight, is actually to keep you there, because it thinks that, you're in danger for whatever perceived reason. And so we have to figure out a way to we can't let you go back up to ventral. We have to figure out a way to keep you here. So it's almost like your brain has no intention of tricking you. Wouldn't even know how to do so if it did. But it does have an intention, an imperative, survival response to keep you safe. And if it has to send you crazy, disturbing thoughts so that you stay on guard, it will. And we all know, I think at least once in our life, but for many of us, multiple times a day, even during hard seasons, what that's like to have those anxious thoughts racing. Or they could be angry thoughts, because it is fight or flight, right? So you could have thoughts where you're constantly blaming, where you are constantly going through arguments in your head, thinking about what you would want to do to somebody, thinking about revenge, thinking about how somebody's done you wrong. And again, incredibly tempting to stay there and to really go there with these thoughts. But the truth is, these thoughts, again, they're just trying to keep you safe. They're just based on whatever state you're in. They're not trying to ruin your life, and they're certainly not trying to disconnect you from people. They're not trying to get you in fights with people. Their only imperative is to just help keep you safe. And so understanding that is really essential. If you are having low, hopeless, what's the point thoughts, I can't do this, I don't care, nothing sounds fun, you're in a dorsal state. And a dorsal state starts with apathy, whatever, who cares, all the way down to deep despair, and even derealization and depersonalization, which is like the world doesn't feel real, or I'm not in my body. And so when you're here, your thoughts are, again, they're going to be really slow, really low, and they're going to be very hopeless. Maybe not despairingly hopeless, maybe just no. One of my friends, my Australian friends, used to very commonly call it feeling flat. And these thoughts are just going to have no inspiration, no connection, no hope or joy or possibility to them. And it's so important to understand your states. By the way, I know that you've probably heard me say this if you've listened, but you can have blended states as well. You can have your rest state, which is mostly ventral, I feel safe, with a splash of dorsal. You can have a state of play, which is ventral with a splash of sympathetic, if you're competing or creating something really exciting. Or you can have your free state, which is your fight or flight, sympathetic, and your dorsal depression state on at the same time, which is like being in a car with the gas and the brake on. And they all have correlating thoughts. But for the purpose of this episode, we're just going to talk about the 3 states and the different thoughts that come from these 3 states. So understanding that your thoughts or your state creates your story is game changing. It will change your life. It's completely essential to healing, because what you can then do is pay attention, really get to know the thoughts that you have when you're in your ventral state. And when you're in your ventral state and you feel, grounded, connected, then you'll know instantly, or it may take you a little while, but you'll get to the point where you'll be able to know very quickly when your thoughts shift from helpful and encouraging and connecting and inspiring to fearful or even hopeless. And so if you all of a sudden are, folding laundry and you start like having a fight with your husband in your head, it's tempting to like really get angry and be like, yeah, that guy, what the heck? But instead, what we can do, the healing path forward, is to say, oh, that's interesting. I noticed I started a fight with my husband. My body must not be feeling safe for some reason. And that could be a number of reasons. Your brain doesn't need an actual issue with your husband in order to like make you think that you have an issue with your husband. If it's afraid, it doesn't speak English. It doesn't speak, calm. Hey, I'm just going to explain to you that, I'm feeling really stressed. I don't really know where to put my stress on. So I'm just going to like find a problem in my life to stew about because I really just feel like I need to be on guard right now. Is not going to explain that to you. It's just going to all of a sudden make you feel like your life is falling apart or nothing's right or you can't do anything or whatever. And this is just a response from your nervous system. Knowing that, again, completely essential. You can go back to some of the episodes that we've done on the nervous system. We also have a mini course coming out called Creative Flow Reset, where basically we're going to be helping you personalize the autonomic ladder to yourself and helping you find state-dependent activities and exercises to help you come up your ladder, all to help you get back into your creative flow, whether you are creative or just a, person who wants help getting back into their ventral state and really wants to understand the nervous system. Be on the lookout in the next few weeks for the Creative Flow Reset, which you can find through my Instagram page at heal.create. So I want to talk about next, after we have this sort of basic understanding of thoughts. They're neutral. We don't have control over them. You do have control over how you respond to them. They're state dependent. So your state creates your story. Whatever state you're in is the brand of thoughts that you will be experiencing. Everyone has crazy thoughts all day long because your thoughts are not actually narrating your reality. They're just trying to make sense of what you're feeling in your body. It's a really important difference because if you are driving down the bridge and you're like, what if I drive off this bridge? That's not narrating your reality. And when people think that it is, then that causes so much anxiety. Is there something wrong with me? Do I actually want to die? Why would I even have that thought? What the heck? But the truth is that your brain, if you were to have that thought, that would just be an intrusive thought, and we could get curious about that. So an intrusive thought. Intrusive thoughts are any thoughts that keep you from enjoying and being present to your life, as defined by my favorite anxiety expert, Cheryl Paul. Intrusive thoughts are brilliant defense mechanisms in that they protect you from vulnerable feelings, whether that's sadness, whether that's old grief, or whether that's joy, which is actually the most vulnerable thing to feel of all, right? Intrusive thoughts are actually this really brilliant looping system in your brain, or like alert system that your body feels afraid of some of the emotions that you're carrying inside. And so when we begin to have intrusive thoughts, we can know, first of all, that the smartest thing that your brain can do when it senses that you have an overwhelm of emotion, or when something in your present reality is reminding your body of something from the past that feels really, really hard or tender, then it's going to send you some of the scariest thoughts it can even think of based on what you've been through. And I want to read to you guys a list of the intrusive thoughts. These are you could think of them as like umbrellas. Everyone has like 3 or 4 different hooks when they're in a lot of anxiety, where they'll just kind of swirl around. And it's important to know that this is a thing that everybody with anxiety, everybody with intrusive thoughts is going to fall under one of these umbrellas as far as the themes for intrusive thoughts. Because I want you to know that you're normal, and because what's really, really important to know is that your thoughts, your intrusive thoughts, are always the opposite of what you actually want and value and is true about you, as far as what who you are deep inside. And so These are the intrusive thoughts and the umbrellas of thoughts that people can loop under. What if I married the wrong person? What if I don't love my spouse enough? What if I was sexually molested as a kid and I don't remember? What if I had an affair and I don't remember? What if I hurt someone? What if I kill someone? What if I'm gay? What if my child gets hurt in some way? What if I hurt a child? What if I have a terminal illness? What if I die in my sleep? What if there is no God? These are so common. I know immediately which hooks are mine as I read this list. And I hope that you can hear too that your umbrella mentioned, just because I want you to know how deeply common this is. If I could just somehow guarantee that the compassion that I'm feeling for you right now would just get right to your heart, I would send it because I want you to know that the half the struggle of healing is unhooking from your thoughts. And when you have intrusive thoughts, the last thing you want to do is believe them. It's a lot like the analogy of if a kid comes into your room and says, "Oh my gosh, Mom, there's a monster under my bed." Well, if you believed them, you'd say, "Oh my gosh, what do you mean? How many teeth does it have? Do we have to move?" That would not be helpful to either of you. You would be afraid, the kid would be afraid, there'd be no adult online, and everyone would be panicked and terrified over something that's not even real. The other option that a lot of people do, especially avoidant type people, is they ignore it. So if the kid came in and said, "There's monsters under my bed," and we said, "Monsters aren't real, go to sleep." Well, that wouldn't be a very compassionate, loving parent either, would it? What we want to do when we have intrusive thoughts is just imagine that a little kid is coming in and telling us the scariest thing that they can imagine because they're scared. We know monsters don't exist. So when a kid says that, what is he actually saying? He's saying his body feels terrified and his brain is imagining what could possibly make his body this terrified. I don't know, maybe the monsters I saw in that movie that one time. That's what intrusive thoughts are. They are not true. They are not real. They are just your brain trying to make sense of the fear that you're feeling in your body while also distracting you from feeling it. Because here's the thing. If you have a lot of fear in your body, then especially if you have unresolved trauma, it can be really overwhelming to begin that journey of going back to it and feeling it. And we want to feel our reservoir of pain. Like, I'll back up. For me, I wasn't familiar with my own pain until I was 33, and I had a complete, say mental breakdown, which means different things to different people, but panic attacks out of nowhere after my third child was born. Went to the hospital, and from that point on, which was 9.5 years ago, from that point on, I basically was trying to figure out how to heal this reservoir of pain that was inside of me. And it took me a while to figure out how to do it effectively. I tried to ignore it for a while. It came up and I was like, ooh, let's just pretend like that never happened. And then I tried to really go deep into it and got really lost in pain and didn't know how to not feel my pain, which you might know people or you might have had that experience too. Because I heard, you have to feel it to heal it. And I was so sick of avoiding it. So I just dove right in and just started feeling all my pain. And I became so incredibly dysregulated. The way that we feel our pain is a little bit at a time. And we sandwich it between things that make us feel present and feel good. Now, we'll definitely need the support of someone with us in the process if we have no experience of that. But it's very possible to do. And I remember when I really finally understood, I need to feel this slowly. I probably cried. I just made crying and a grief practice a part of my weekly routine because I knew that I had so much to feel and I knew that it was completely unproductive. I wasn't functioning, trying to journal about it all the time and figure out what was wrong with me all the time. I just had to see it as like this thing that this like pool that I needed to drain. And once I realized that I probably cried every day for like 8 weeks. Not all day every day, like 10 minutes a day, maybe 15. I would just have a practice of, sitting with a few songs. Actually, there's an episode that we have called something about grief practice, which we can link in the show notes. But basically, I would listen to a few songs and I would just like breathe into my body, drop into my body, and I would let tears come. Even a tearless cry was something that I would let myself do. And what was amazing about that was after a few weeks of that, my intrusive thoughts were completely gone because they didn't have to protect me against my fear anymore. And they didn't have to alert me to it anymore. I was with my fear every day and my pain every day. And then after that 15 minutes or so of crying, I would set aside time at night after the kids went to bed and just spend some time and let myself do that. Then I would come up and I would regulate my nervous system. I would watch something funny. I would, shake it off. I would hug my husband. I would breathe. And that was the process that allowed me to slowly drain this pool. So intrusive thoughts, the function of them is so that you can be alerted to your pain and then also distracted from it. Isn't that wild? That dual function, they're completely opposite in what they're trying to do, but that's how smart your body is. So what I want to end with as far as thoughts go, if you were raised in Christianity, and I have people from all over the spectrum in as far as what their relationship with Christianity is, but there's a verse that says, whatever is true, whatever is lovely, whatever is beautiful, whatever is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And that is so incredibly, I don't know if you can hear my kids wrestling next door in the other room, but that is actually so incredibly true. And what we know from brain retraining, there are a lot of different programs that teach you to brain retrain. And what brain retraining is it's actually using your ability to consciously think new thoughts in order to heal your body. So you can, while you don't have control over the thoughts that just float into your head, because you're the sky and the thoughts are the clouds, they're just kind of floating on by. You don't have a lot of control over that, but you do have control over what thoughts you consciously think. And what's really exciting about this is if you begin, this is a huge part of my healing journey, if you begin to consciously think loving, wonderful, beautiful, hopeful thoughts, and even use your 5 senses to remember old, beautiful memories that you've had or future memories that you'd like to create, what happens is that you begin to send your body cues of safety, which then regulate your nervous system. And over time, your body begins to actually expect more and more goodness, more hopeful, loving, beautiful things. And that's how you can consciously use your thoughts to heal your body. I mean, there's another Bible verse, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, which, I think being raised in conservative religion was always all of the Bible verses that I have found to have very strong trauma-informed correlations that have been so much fun to find, especially in Jesus' gospel message. They were all kind of used as like, I don't know, shoulds at best and like shaming practices at worst, like you should do this. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind is actually just reminding you that you have the power by the thoughts that you consciously think to heal yourself. Now, this is different from toxic positivity because toxic positivity wants to only think of positive things and never process pain. And it also is surface level. It's superficial. It's like refusing to even see anything painful internally. And that will never work. That will never, ever work. Just like with a kid, if I had a kid that, anytime they were sad, I'm like, nope, you're not sad. You're actually happy. Think about Disneyland. What a psychopathic parent I would be. That's a great toxic positivity analogy. What we're actually trying to do instead is we're trying to comfort, bring compassion to ourselves. This is the path forward. We bring compassion, we heal, we feel some of our pain, and then we create. We use our thoughts, as well as other regulating things, connection with other people, making things with our hands, with music, with art, whatever. And we send enough cues of safety to our body to begin to feel safe in this world. And when you feel safe in this world, you feel joyful, full of hope. Your true self, your authenticity, your authentic self is someone that you can get to know, a place you can cultivate using the power of your conscious thoughts. So I hope that this helped. If you learned anything about thoughts that you didn't know, I know that this was a little basic, but I wanted to kind of go from scratch, because what I noticed with my clients was that it was almost like sometimes you just need to have a beginner's mind. Sometimes you just need to be like, wait, can you remind me again? Why is this happening? What is this? And thoughts were the topic that has come up a lot recently. And so if you learned something brand new, let me know. DM me at Heal Create, or send me an email. I would love to hear what you guys are getting out of this. And if you have any questions or any topics that you'd like me to cover, you can also reach out to me as well. Again, on Instagram, it's at heal.create. Or you can go to my website, courtneylancaster.co, send a message, or you can go to at Courtneyland, which is my personal page. You're invited to follow along with my life if you'd like. I hope that you guys have an absolutely wonderful day. I hope that you use the power of conscious thoughts about beautiful, wonderful, amazing, pleasant, hopeful things, past and future, to send cues of safety to your body. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. If you have enjoyed this podcast at all, we would love if you would subscribe, rate it, send it to your friends. That would really help us get this message out, this message of empowering people towards emotionally sustainable creativity. Also, we have a PDF for you. So there's an exercise that I created called Inspiration Mirroring. And basically, it is for those that are looking to get acquainted with their authentic, truest self, based on the idea that whatever inspires you embodies your potential. And so if you want to get started on that journey today of really understanding who you are at your core, the person that you hope you are, then you can go to the link in my bio on Instagram or go to my website and download that PDF. I think that's all. Have a beautiful day.